The galaxy was wide and bright with thousands of worlds, but not all worlds were equal in power. Some worlds held great fleets and ancient wisdom, while others were small and unknown. Among the great worlds was the world of Theryx. Its cities were built from shining stone that glowed under the light of twin suns. The Theryx people were tall, graceful, and proud. They valued strength, intelligence, and bloodline more than anything else. To them, status was everything. Princess Nara of Theryx was known everywhere. She walked with calm steps and spoke with quiet voice, but she had the presence of a leader. Her hair was silver like moonlight, and her eyes glowed with deep violet color. She was trained in diplomacy, strategy, and history. Many believed she would one day guide her people with honor, but her world carried a secret about her. Nara was believed to be barren. The Theryx family line was known for producing strong heirs, but when her health was checked many times and no change was seen, the council began to whisper. Their whispers turned to rumors, and soon the entire court knew. They did not speak it loudly, but they watched her with pity or cold judgment. The ruling council decided that Nara should be given to a human. Not as a gesture of peace or respect. They intended it as a quiet insult. To them, humans were unpredictable, emotional, and simple. The council believed sending her to a human partner would remove her influence at home. They believed she would fade into silence. On the day of the announcement, Nara stood in the high hall where light poured through tall windows. The council sat upon thrones carved from crystal. The air was heavy but still. Nara kept her expression calm as the decision was read. No one looked into her eyes. They only wanted to see her bow her head and accept. She did not bow. She did not show anger. She simply listened and nodded once. Her posture remained strong. But inside, her heart was heavy. Not because of the insult, but because her home had chosen to cast her aside so easily. Her assigned partner, the human named Ryan, arrived the next day. He was not what the Theryx people expected. They believed humans would be loud or boastful, but Ryan walked into the hall with steady steps. He was average in height with short brown hair and calm dark eyes. He bowed his head in respect to the council, but he did not act weak or foolish. His presence was quiet but confident. Ryan was an explorer and diplomat from Earth. He had visited many worlds and spoke many languages. He understood cultures and listened before speaking. He had heard about the arrangement before coming, and though he found it unjust, he did not show anger. He understood that many worlds acted out of pride, and pride was slow to change. When Nara and Ryan first stood together, neither spoke. There was silence, not cold but cautious. Nara studied his face. Ryan did the same. He could tell she was intelligent and strong. She could tell he was not simple nor careless. The council watched them, hoping to see discomfort or humiliation. But no such reaction appeared. Ryan spoke first. His voice was gentle. "I greet you, Princess Nara. I hope our journey together brings understanding, not sorrow." His words were simple and respectful. Nara blinked once. She had expected either arrogance or pity. Instead, he spoke to her as an equal. "I accept the journey ahead," Nara replied. "I hope we both learn something of value." There was no anger in her voice, only calm acceptance. The council was disappointed. They wanted humiliation. They wanted a scene. But there was none. Within a day, Nara and Ryan left Theryx aboard a ship from the Human Alliance. The ship was named Voyager Dawn. It was large, with smooth white hulls and clear observation windows that showed the stars like scattered diamonds. The technology inside it was different from Theryx design. Human design was practical, simple, but strong. Nara walked through the halls quietly, noticing everything. She had been raised in luxury, but she did not look down on the ship. She observed how humans arranged their tools, how they communicated, how they recorded and stored information. She saw efficiency and adaptability. It was different from her world, where tradition guided every part of life. The living space assigned to her was comfortable. There were green plants in a small glass section, and warm lights that adjusted gently through the day. Ryan made sure she had everything she needed without speaking too much. He understood that she needed space. On the second day of travel, they sat in the common lounge near a large window that showed a glowing blue nebula outside. The stars drifted slowly across the darkness. Nara spoke first this time. "You do not ask why I was given to you," she said. Ryan looked to the stars before answering. "I understand enough. Your people did not send you to honor you." She turned her head slightly, watching him. And you accept this? Ryan nodded once. I do not accept the insult behind it. But I accept you as a person. I treat you with respect because that is correct. Nara felt something shift quietly in her chest. She was used to formality, to the soft cruelty hidden behind perfect courtesy. Ryan was different. His truth was plain and without hidden edge. She lowered her eyes. I do not wish to be a burden. You are not, Ryan replied. You are a person with your own path. I am here to walk beside you, not ahead of you. Their conversation was simple, but it carried weight. Days passed. Nara began to learn about Earth history, music, art, and human traditions. Humans had many conflicts, but also many acts of kindness, courage, and progress. They learned through struggle and grew through mistakes. To Nara, this was new. Theric's culture avoided mistakes and valued perfection. But perfection brought cold distance. One evening, alarms echoed through the ship. Lights flashed red along the halls. Ryan moved quickly, his voice steady as he spoke over the communication system. A pirate fleet had appeared from a hidden space fold. These pirates attacked ships for supplies and technology. They believed the Voyager Dawn would be an easy prize. The guards on board were trained, but the pirates were fast. They boarded the ship with magnetic clamps and cut through the airlocks. The battle began in the corridors. The hum of energy shields and handheld plasma weapons filled the air. Nara was guided toward a secured room by a guard, but halfway there the guard was caught by a blast of energy. He fell, weapons sliding across the floor. Nara froze for a moment. She had trained in history and diplomacy, not war. Then Ryan arrived. He grabbed the fallen guard's shield and positioned himself between Nara and the approaching pirates. His eyes were focused, calm. He used the shield not as a defense only, but as part of his movement. He stepped sideways, redirected attacks, and moved with practiced precision. Humans did not rely only on physical power. They used adaptability. They changed stance quickly. They reacted to environment Nara watched with surprise. Ryan was not a warrior in title, yet he fought with strategy and creativity. The pirates retreated when reinforcements arrived. The ship returned to safety. Nara stood in silence. Her heart was steady but warm. You saved me, she said. Ryan shook his head softly. We protected each other. Next time we will stand ready together. For the first time Nara smiled faintly. It was small but real. Something had begun. Something neither the Council nor the galaxy had expected. A bond formed not from force nor duty, but mutual respect. And this bond would change everything that came after. The journey continued through deep space. Days turned into cycles that felt calm. Yet something was changing quietly between Nara and Ryan. After the pirate attack, the atmosphere aboard Voyager Dawn shifted. The crew now saw Nara not as a quiet royal visitor, but as someone who stood steady under threat. And Nara saw humans in a new light. They were not weak or disorganized. They were adaptable, brave, and capable of working together in ways her own people did not understand. Ryan returned to his duties as ship coordinator, managing routes, crew tasks, and communications between systems. He did everything with calm focus. Even after the attack, he held no anger or pride. Nara found this interesting. A Theric's warrior would speak of victory or disgrace. A Theric's diplomat would speak of honor or strategic gain. But Ryan simply continued his work as though protecting others was natural and ordinary. One morning, Nara joined him in the observation room. The wide glass wall showed a slow river of stars stretching endlessly. The ship drifted past distant galaxies, some glowing bright blue and others fading into soft silver. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the ship engines. Ryan did not ask why she came. He did not need to. He simply acknowledged her with a slight nod. She stood beside him with her hands folded gently. You fought with skill, Nara said after a moment. Her voice remained calm. Ryan shook his head lightly. I did what was needed. Skill is just practice. Purpose is what matters. Nara considered that. Her people valued perfection more than purpose. Mistakes were seen as weakness. Yet she had seen humans learn through countless mistakes and still rise stronger. You said we will protect each other next time, Nara continued. How do humans prepare for conflict? Ryan turned to her with a thoughtful look. We train together. We learn our strengths and weaknesses. We help each other improve. It is not only about being strong alone. It is about being strong together. Nara nodded. Her eyes softened. Then teach me. Ryan did not smile, but his eyes warmed. He understood the importance of her request. Teaching her meant trust. Accepting her meant partnership. They began training in the ship's exercise hall. It was a wide space with soft flooring and simple equipment. Rion taught Nara how to stabilize her stance, how to predict movement, and how to use observation to find the best response. Nara moved with natural grace and sharp awareness. She had been trained in dance and ceremonial sword forms, but those arts were meant to look beautiful, not to respond to real danger. Ryan, on the other hand, trained her to react quickly, to change position when needed, to use surroundings instead of just form. Nara learned swiftly. Rian spoke little, but every instruction had purpose. When she moved incorrectly, he did not criticize. He simply adjusted her posture with a light gesture, or repeated the move until she felt the balance. The training sessions became a daily routine. The crew sometimes watched from a distance, impressed by the sight. The once separated princess and human now moved like partners, learning the rhythm of understanding. Outside the ship, however, not everyone approved. Back on Theryx, the ruling council received reports. They learned that Nara was cooperating with the human. They did not expect respect to form between them. They believed her pride would reject him. The council viewed this development as a problem. If Nara began to see value in humans, others might too. And if humans were valued, then the prideful control of Theryx would weaken. The council decided to send a spy disguised as an ambassador to observe the situation and report back. They wanted to find a way to remind Nara of her place and maintain their image of superiority. The spy ship was already on its way. Meanwhile, the Voyager Dawn reached a new region known as the Silver Belt. This area was filled with floating crystal clusters and drifting stations. Among them was a colony of refugees. The colony was not owned by any official government. It was a community built by those who had been abandoned by different worlds. Some were farmers, some were engineers, some were simply people who wanted a safe place to live without fear or judgment. The colony requested help from Ryan's ship. Their main generator was failing and they were running low on clean water. Ryan agreed to assist and brought a team, including Nara, to the colony surface. The colony was simple, with small houses built from recycled ship parts. Children played beside irrigation tanks. Families smiled tired but hopeful smiles. When the visitors arrived, the colony leader approached them. He was an older man with soft brown eyes. "We do not have much, but we welcome you," he said. Ryan greeted him warmly and began organizing repair teams. Nara watched the colony with quiet attention. She saw how the people shared food, tools, and work. There were no strict ranks. There was no fear of appearing weak. When someone struggled, another stepped in. When someone was sad, others comforted them. There was no shame in needing help. This was new to her. She saw a small group of children gathering around a broken toy. They tried to fix it together, each offering small suggestions. None of them argued or judged. They simply helped. Nara sat near them and watched. One child looked up and held the toy toward her. "Can you help?" the child asked. Nara had never repaired a toy in her life. Her world had machines that repaired themselves, but she did not say she could not do it. She simply examined the pieces carefully. Then she remembered a technique Rion showed her during training, how to observe patterns. Slowly and calmly, she aligned the pieces, tightened the small grip, and handed the toy back. The children smiled brightly. Nara felt something warm in her chest. Ryan saw this from a distance. He did not interrupt. He understood that this moment was for her alone. Later, when the repairs were complete, the colony held a simple meal to thank the visitors. The food was modest, but the feeling of community was strong. Nara sat beside Ryan, watching lanterns sway in the wind. "Your people live differently than mine," she said. "All species live differently," Ryan replied. "But what matters is how they choose to treat each other." Nara looked up at the stars. "My people hide their feelings to protect their pride. These people show their feelings to protect each other." Rion nodded. "And both choices lead to different worlds." Nara looked at him. "I want to understand more. I want to see beyond the walls I was raised behind." Rion met her eyes. "Then you already have begun." The night was quiet and peaceful, but peace rarely lasted in the galaxy. The next morning, the spy ship from Theryx arrived. The supposed ambassador stepped out with elegant posture and cold expression. His name was Varel. He bowed before Nara, but his eyes did not show respect. They showed judgment. "I have come to escort you back to your people," Veril said. "They wish to ensure your well-being." Nara stood tall. "My well-being is not in question. I remain here by choice." Veril's smile was thin. "You forget your place. You were given to a human. That alone should tell you your importance has diminished." Rian stepped forward, but Nara lifted her hand. She did not need protection from this. She looked Veril directly in the eyes. "My value is not decided by those who cast me out. I walk my own path now." Veril's face tightened. He did not expect defiance. He stepped back and spoke with cold threat. "Then the council will respond." Accordingly, he returned to his ship and left. The air grew heavy. The council would not remain passive now. The alliance between Nara and Rian had begun to grow, and the galaxy had started to notice. The starship glided silently through the endless dark of space, carrying both Nara and Rian across systems that no human or alien had visited before. Outside, clusters of stars gleamed like distant fires, each one hiding worlds full of possibilities and dangers. Nara sat in her private chamber, staring at the small window. Her thoughts tangled between anger, hope, and confusion. She had never known humans well, except for the faint stories whispered by traders and explorers. To her people, humans were weak, reckless, and unworthy of respect. Yet Rian, this human she had been given as a partner in what was supposed to be her humiliation, had saved her more than once, using not brute force but cleverness and planning. She could not ignore the strange warmth she felt whenever she watched him work or speak. Rian knocked gently on her door. "Nara, may I come in?" he asked. His voice was calm, steady, and somehow comforting. Nara turned. "You may." Her voice was cool, but inside she felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. He entered, carrying a small device glowing faintly with blue light. "I think you should see this," he said. He set it down on the table, and a holographic map of a nearby system unfolded. On one of the planets, shaded in green and gold, small clusters of life forms moved through valleys and forests. "These are refugees," Rian explained. "Aliens from a system that was destroyed. They survived, but they are weak, isolated, and without proper leadership. Most species would leave them to die. But humans try to help." Nara studied the image. She had read about such colonies, but seeing them displayed in full detail was different. Each small figure seemed fragile and vulnerable. The way they moved together, helping each other, surviving against the odds, struck something deep inside her. "They rely on each other," she said quietly. "Not on power, not on rank, just on care and cooperation." Rian nodded. "It is what humans do best. We do not always win by strength. We win by persistence, by learning, by creating solutions when none seem possible." For a long time, Nara said nothing. She felt a strange stirring in her chest. Her life had always been guided by rules, by expectations, by the rigid laws of her people. Humans seemed free in a way she had never imagined, and yet they were capable of achieving what her people could not, simply because they did not give up. Days passed, and the starship approached the planet. Rian briefed the crew on the plan to land and offer aid to the refugees. Nara, though nervous, insisted on accompanying him. She had never set foot on a world so unprotected and vulnerable, but curiosity and a growing sense of purpose pushed her forward. When they landed, the refugees approached cautiously. They had never seen humans before, and certainly not an alien princess. Their mistrust was clear, but Rian spoke gently, explaining that they were here to help. Nara remained silent at first, observing, but when she finally stepped forward, the reaction of the refugees surprised her. They did not recoil. They did not bow in fear. They simply watched. Nara found herself speaking to them, her voice steady and calm. "I am Nara. I was sent to you not as a ruler, but as someone who wants to understand and help. I do not claim to know everything. I only wish to learn." The refugees stared at her in silence. Then slowly a few stepped closer, offering small gestures of trust. Nara reached out and accepted their hands. The simple act, human or alien, created a connection that she had never experienced with her own people. Rian watched from nearby, pride and relief in his eyes. "They can feel your sincerity," he said. "That is more powerful than any command." Over the next several days, Nara worked with Rian and the refugees. She helped build shelters, organize food distribution, and solve problems that had kept the small colony struggling. She learned from Ryan and the humans that working together, sharing knowledge, and respecting each being's abilities could create results no individual or strict hierarchy could achieve. One evening, after a long day of work, Nara stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The sun of that alien world dipped low, casting golden light over the valley. She felt something she had never thought possible. Hope. Not hope imposed by duty, not hope forced by tradition, but hope that came from choice, from seeing life grow despite difficulties. Ryan joined her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You see what can be done when we try, don't you?" he asked. Nara nodded. "I see it. Humans are different. Strong in ways my people cannot understand. They adapt, they survive, and they create life where none seems possible." He smiled. "You are starting to see why the Council fears humans. They cannot control us, and that is why we endure." Nara turned to him, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "I used to think my life was determined by others, by duty, by expectation. But here with you I see that life is not just about what is given to us. It is about what we choose to create." Ryan's smile widened. "And what we choose to protect." As days turned into weeks, Nara discovered more about herself and about humans. She experienced emotions and strength she had never imagined. She laughed at small mistakes, celebrated tiny victories, and even felt a spark of joy in unexpected moments. Then came a discovery that stunned even the ship's scientists. During a routine check of her health, they noticed a biological reaction unlike anything seen before in her species. It was subtle but unmistakable. Nara's body was responding positively to the presence of Ryan's human energy. "This is unprecedented," said one of the alien scientists. "Her supposed infertility is not absolute. Her biology is interacting with the human in a way that is stimulating life processes." Nara felt a mixture of fear and wonder. "Does this mean I could have a child?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ryan, standing beside her, looked at her with calm encouragement. "It is possible. But what matters most is not the child. It is what we have learned from each other. Strength comes from understanding, from care, and from choice." Nara nodded, but inside a new hope began to bloom. For the first time she realized that her life was not defined by mockery, by council decrees, or by her perceived limitations. It was defined by courage, connection, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. The refugees thrived under their care, and Nara's confidence grew. She found herself thinking not only of survival but of creation, of nurturing, of building a life that mattered. The bond with Rion deepened, built not on obligation but on mutual respect and understanding. At night, under alien stars, Nara and Rion would discuss their dreams and fears. They spoke of exploration, of building alliances, of teaching humans and aliens to value life in all forms. Nara realized that humans were special, not because they were stronger, but because they dared to face impossible odds and still choose to protect, to nurture, and to create. As the ship prepared to leave the refugee planet, Nara looked back at the settlement they had helped. Small fires glimmered in huts, laughter echoed in the wind, and life continued despite hardship. She felt a sense of pride she had never known, not as a princess, but as a being who had learned to hope and act beyond fear. Ryan approached her. "Are you ready to return to Therix?" he asked. Nara inhaled deeply. "I am ready, but I will not go back as the same princess they sent away. I will go back as someone who knows that life can be stronger than any rule or expectation." Ryan placed his hand over hers. "Then we will face them together, and they will see that humans are not to be underestimated." Nara smiled, a mixture of determination and newfound warmth in her eyes. She had seen the seeds of change, not only in herself but in the galaxy. The journey ahead would be difficult, but she now understood that courage, intelligence, and compassion could turn the impossible into reality. As the starship departed, Nara looked at the stars once more, feeling a deep sense of connection. She had discovered that strength is not always measured by power or rank. It is measured by the ability to endure, to nurture, and to create life even where none seems possible. And in that realization, she began to understand the true power of humanity and the path she would take when she returned to Therix. The starship entered the orbit of Therix, the home planet of Princess Nara. From space, the planet looked as it always had. Vast deserts stretching to jagged mountains, rivers of liquid silver cutting through valleys. and cities built high into cliffs and towers. But Nara saw it differently now. She saw not just her homeland, but the rigid rules and expectations that had tried to control her entire life. She was no longer the frightened princess they had sent away. She was different. She was strong, and she carried life within her. Rion stood beside her on the observation deck. His calm presence reminded her of the lessons they had learned together, the lessons of courage, patience, and trust. "Are you ready for them?" he asked gently. Nara took a deep breath. "I am ready, but I will not act as they expect. I will act as I must, with truth and purpose." As the starship descended into the capital city, the streets were crowded. Citizens had heard rumors of her return, and whispers spread quickly. Some doubted, some mocked, but many were curious. They had heard that the princess, once considered barren, was returning not alone, but with a human at her side. The council had tried to humiliate her, but now the city buzzed with anticipation. The council waited in the grand palace, tall figures clad in ceremonial robes, their expressions carefully composed. They had seen many things in their rule, but never a human paired with a princess in such a way. They did not yet know the full truth of what Nara carried within her. The doors opened, and Nara entered with Rion. The council rose, but their posture carried the tension of disbelief. "Princess Nara," the council leader said, his voice formal, sharp, and measured. "You have returned." "We expected." Les Nara held her head high. "I have returned," she said evenly. "Not as you sent me, but as I have become. I have learned what it means to endure, to care, and to create life beyond expectation." The council murmured among themselves, but she continued. "I have seen what humans can do. I have seen their courage, their intelligence, their willingness to protect and nurture, and I have experienced it firsthand. They are not weak. They are capable of things your rules cannot measure." One council member scoffed. "You speak of humans as if they are superior. They are mere creatures of flesh and limited understanding. They cannot challenge the will of Tharix." Nara's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "And yet they can. Because they adapt, they create, they survive where others fail. Your strength is measured by law and fear. Human strength is measured by action and choice. That is why I have returned not as a pawn but as a mother-to-be." A collective gasp rippled through the council chamber. The news spread instantly among the gathered officials. Nara's supposed infertility, once a mark of weakness and shame, was now proof of her strength and the uniqueness of humanity. Ryan stepped forward. "I stand with her," he said calmly. "Humans do not act for glory or fear. We act for what is right and what must be done. And right now what must be done is to recognize that strength comes in many forms, not just through birthright or tradition." The council looked at him in shock. A human speaking with authority in their palace was unheard of. Some felt anger, some fear, but Nara did not waver. She had learned from humans to stand firm in the face of disbelief, to act with reason and conviction. "Princess," another council member said, his tone sharper this time, "do you not fear for your position? For the future of the throne? You bring a human into your life and claim strength from that." Nara's response was clear and measured. "I do not claim strength from a human. I claim strength from what we achieve together. I claim strength from life itself. I have learned that to lead is not to rule with fear, but to guide with courage, intelligence, and care. The child I carry is a symbol, yes, but also a reminder that life is stronger than mockery, stronger than expectation, stronger than fear." Whispers spread across the chamber. Some council members were silent, unsure of how to respond. Others felt anger rise but could not voice it. They had underestimated her, as they always underestimated humans, and now they faced a reality they could not ignore. Nara continued. "I return not to beg approval, not to demand mercy, but to show truth. You sent me away believing I would fail. You mocked my life and my ability, but I have returned with experience, with knowledge, and with life itself. The galaxy is changing, and we must change with it, or we will be left behind." The council leader rose slowly, his face unreadable. "Princess Nara, your words are bold. You challenge centuries of tradition, of law, of order." "And rightly so," Nara replied. "Tradition without understanding is weakness. Law without compassion is cruelty. Order without purpose is empty. Humans and aliens alike survive not because of fear, but because of courage and care. That is what you must learn if Tharix is to remain strong." Rion placed a hand gently on Nara's back, a silent support that strengthened her resolve. Together they had faced danger, hardship, and uncertainty, and together they now faced the council. Finally, the council leader spoke again, his voice quieter. "And this, child you carry?" Nara smiled, a mixture of pride and determination. "This child is a beginning of understanding, of collaboration, of life that surpasses expectation. It is not just my child. It is a symbol of what is possible when courage and care guide our actions." A tense silence followed. Many council members struggled to find words. They had intended to humiliate her, but instead they faced undeniable proof of change and strength. The princess they had mocked had returned stronger, wiser, and alive with hope for the future. Outside the chamber, the citizens of Therix gathered in streets and plazas. Word of Nara's return spread quickly. Murmurs became conversations, conversations became cheers. People saw that the princess they thought powerless was a mother-to-be, a figure of courage and wisdom. Humans, once considered insignificant, were now recognized as remarkable and capable allies. Over the next few days, Nara and Ryan worked to solidify their message. They visited schools, research centers, and community hubs. Nara spoke of strength through understanding. Ryan spoke of courage through action. Together they inspired a sense of possibility. Citizens and young leaders began to see humans not as weak outsiders, but as partners capable of achieving extraordinary things. At night, in the quiet of the palace, Nara stood on her balcony, looking at the city below. She felt the life growing inside her, a constant reminder of hope and change. Ryan joined her silently, placing his hand gently over hers. "You have done well," he said softly, "not just for yourself, but for everyone here. They will remember this moment." Nara nodded, her eyes shining. "I have learned that strength is not inherited. It is earned. It is chosen. And sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places." Ryan smiled. "And humans are full of unexpected strengths." Nara allowed herself a quiet laugh, a sound of relief and joy. She had faced her fears, her rulers, and her doubts. She had returned not as the princess who was mocked, but as a symbol of hope and courage. The council, though wary, began to recognize that change was inevitable. They could resist, they could argue, but the proof was clear. Life and courage, not fear or mockery, defined true strength. Nara's return as a mother-to-be would mark a new era for Therix, a lesson that humans and aliens alike would carry into the future. And as the twin moons rose over the desert towers, Nara felt a deep peace. She had returned not as a pawn, but as a force of life, proof that even those once considered powerless could inspire change, challenge old rules, and redefine what it meant to be strong. The seeds of a new Therix were planted, and Nara, with Ryan by her side, would nurture them with courage, wisdom, and care. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The air of Therix had never felt so alive. Citizens gathered in the streets, curious, cautious, and hopeful, as word of Princess Nara's return spread through every district. For centuries, life on the planet had been governed by strict rules, hierarchy, and tradition. Now, with Nara's return as a mother-to-be, everything felt different. People whispered not in fear, but in anticipation. Something new had begun. Nara walked through the palace halls, her hand resting gently on her abdomen, feeling the life growing within her. She no longer felt the weight of ridicule or expectation, only the quiet strength that comes from knowing she had faced fear, danger, and doubt, and had emerged stronger. Beside her, Ryan moved with calm purpose, the human who had once been underestimated, now a figure of trust, courage, and steady guidance. The council had grown uneasy. Some still resisted the idea of humans being equals, of a hybrid child changing the future of Therix. But even their opposition could not hide the truth. Nara had returned empowered, resilient, and alive with a new purpose. Her pregnancy, once considered impossible, was now undeniable proof of strength born from collaboration, understanding, and courage. The day of the ceremony to acknowledge Nara's return and future role arrived. Citizens filled the great square, eager to witness what they had once considered impossible. Nara stepped forward, radiant and calm, her presence commanding attention not through authority, but through the quiet power of her experience. Rion stood beside her, a silent pillar of support, his eyes reflecting pride and unwavering loyalty. Nara addressed the crowd, her voice carrying across the square. "I have returned not as the princess you expected, but as someone who has learned what it means to endure, to protect, and to create life where it seems impossible. We are capable of more than rules, more than tradition, more than fear allows. We can build a future where strength is measured not by rank, but by courage, compassion, and understanding. The citizens listened in silence, then slowly, one by one, began to cheer. The sound grew, rising like waves, filling the square with energy, hope, and recognition. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were allies, teachers, and examples of resilience. The people of Therix realized that life and strength could take many forms. The council, though hesitant, could not deny what had been achieved. Nara's presence and words had shifted the perception of power and potential. The princess who had been mocked, who had been considered barren and powerless, now stood as a symbol of hope, courage, and life. In the weeks that followed, Nara and Ryan worked together to create programs that combined human and alien knowledge. They taught communities how to survive and thrive in harsh environments, how to nurture life even in challenging circumstances, and how to value intelligence, empathy, and courage alongside tradition and law. Citizens saw results quickly. Farms grew where deserts had been barren. Children learned skills they had never imagined, and communities became stronger than ever before. Nara often walked among the people, learning from them as much as they learned from her. She shared stories of the refugee colony she had helped, of the humans she had come to understand, and of the lessons of collaboration and courage. Ryan was always nearby, guiding, observing, and participating, his presence a reminder that humans were capable of extraordinary things. The day finally came when Nara gave birth. The palace was quiet, every member of the household holding their breath. Ryan stayed by her side, offering words of calm and steady encouragement. When the child arrived, a small, healthy hybrid, the palace erupted in joy and awe. The child had inherited the curiosity and intelligence of humans, the grace and wisdom of Therix, and something even greater, the potential to inspire change across worlds. Nara held her child carefully, feeling the life within her arms, feeling the weight of possibility and responsibility. "This child is more than I imagined," she whispered to Ryan. "This child is proof that life finds a way, that courage and understanding can overcome any expectation or fear." Ryan smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "And this child will grow knowing both worlds, learning from the best of both and showing others that unity is strength." The council and citizens watched, realizing that the future had shifted. The child was not just a symbol. It was a promise. Nara's return had already begun to change hearts and minds, but this birth marked a new era. Humans were no longer seen as weak, and aliens were learning to embrace cooperation rather than hierarchy alone. Over the following months, Nara established programs to foster learning, understanding, and collaboration. Children from different species studied together, scientists shared knowledge freely, and communities began to thrive in ways the council had never anticipated. Nara and Ryan worked tirelessly, guiding, teaching, and inspiring, showing that strength came from courage, intelligence, and care. As the hybrid child grew, so did the awareness that humans were special in ways the galaxy had long overlooked. Their adaptability, curiosity, and willingness to protect and nurture life made them invaluable allies and partners. Nara watched with pride as her child reached small milestones, learning to walk, to observe, to ask questions, and she saw in those bright eyes the potential to continue the legacy she and Rian had begun. One evening, under the twin moons of Therix, Nara and Rian sat together, watching their child play with other children from the palace and the city. The wind carried laughter and joy, a sound that had once been rare in the halls of power. Nara leaned against Rian, feeling a quiet peace she had never known. "We have done more than survive," she said softly. "We have changed what it means to lead, what it means to hope, and what it means to create life." Ryan nodded. "And this is only the beginning. Humans and aliens learning from each other, protecting each other, creating together. That is how the galaxy will grow stronger." Nara smiled, a mixture of pride and serenity in her expression. "I once thought my life was defined by failure, by mockery, by rules I could not change. Now I know that strength is choice. Life is choice. Courage is choice. And we choose it every day, for ourselves and for those who come after us." The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting the promise of a new era. The child laughed again, running toward Nara and Ryan, full of curiosity and wonder. In that laughter, Nara felt the heartbeat of the galaxy, the rhythm of life that could not be stopped. Nara's journey, once defined by humiliation and limitation, had transformed into a story of hope, courage, and inspiration. She had returned not as a powerless princess, but as a mother, a leader, and a symbol of what could be achieved when life, strength, and understanding worked together. The legacy of Nara and Rion was already taking root. Humans were recognized for their ingenuity, their courage, and their ability to create life and hope where others had given up. Aliens learned to respect, to collaborate, and to see value beyond status and tradition. And the hybrid child, the living symbol of unity, would grow to teach the galaxy that strength is measured not by birthright or fear, but by courage, compassion, and the willingness to act even in the face of uncertainty. Nara held her child close, looking out over Therix, feeling the promise of the future in every heartbeat. "We have begun something new," she said quietly. "Something that will endure, something that will inspire. Life is stronger than any expectation, and hope is stronger than any rule." Ryan took her hand, and together they watched as the people of Therix embraced change, curiosity, and courage. The galaxy, once doubtful of humans, now recognized their potential. And in the center of it all, Nara smiled, knowing that she had helped create a world where strength came not from fear, but from love, courage, and the life they nurtured together. Under the stars, the princess, the human, and their child stood together, a family and a symbol, ready to face the future. The story of mockery had ended. The story of hope, courage, and legacy had just begun.